What's surprising about cults is that they can actually come in many forms. It could be a religion, it could be a business, a motivational seminar. No one's gonna walk up to you and be like, hey, you wanna join my cult?
My name is Eric Hoover and isogenics is my strength and momentum!
Take your hands, put them up in the air, and you're gonna be pulling energy from the universe into your body, all right? Hands up, go.
Hey guys, it's Madison. Welcome back to my little corner on the internet. That is at least what I thought I'd say for now. Let me know if you like it. This is the setup for today. We are still working on it. My husband's been helping me create a cooler setup. Things are changing. I know it's been a lot of change really quickly as we move into our new place. And so everyone who's been kind of along for the ride, thank you. I really appreciate you. Also, I mentioned this on my Instagram story, but for those of you guys who don't follow me on Instagram, who just follow me on YouTube, my husband and I were thinking about starting a podcast, and the structure of the podcast would basically be us doing like huge deep dives and research into scams of the past, famous con artists, things like Theranos and Fire Festival, doing research on that, and even some really famous MLMs, and doing even more research than I could do in the videos that I do here. So if you'd like to see something like that, definitely let me know in the comments so we know to do that. Today we are doing an MLM video, and I haven't done an MLM video in a long time, so I'm so excited for it. The reasons why I haven't done a ton of anti-MLM videos on my channel recently is for two different reasons. The first one being there's just so many great and amazing anti-MLM content creators who are putting out great content. I'll be linking my favorite creators down below in the description if you guys want to follow and support them, because I've made some amazing friends and met some people who are just doing awesome anti-MLM content. And I kind of felt like as far as the recent MLM or anti-MLM news goes, they were doing a really good job of covering it. But the main purpose of my channel is covering all scams and unethical business practices, not just anti-MLM content. And there's just so much stuff to cover, so many scams that I feel like personally are equally as bad as MLM companies. So while I will 100% still do anti-MLM videos because they're under the umbrella of scams and unethical business practices, I also want to cover other important topics that I see out there and give myself room to research and really look into anti-MLM content. I never want to get to the point where I'm making anti-MLM videos that don't need to be made. I feel like I don't need to make every single anti-MLM topic into a video. I really want to keep it to things that I feel in my heart are really important issues. So yeah, overall, I'm just working on getting a well-balanced channel that covers scams and unethical business practices of all kinds. And last thing I want to say before getting into the video, I really appreciate everyone who's been DMing me, especially people who've been DMing me video ideas or their own experiences and stories. It really means a lot to me. I recently moved, if you guys couldn't already tell, or I haven't already said it a million times. Before I moved, I became really behind on DMs, and then especially after I moved, it's just a huge backlog of DMs. For people who have sent me emails and have sent me DMs, it really means the world to me. And a lot of them have helped me so much with video topics and deep dives that I've done. So thank you. I appreciate you guys, and I'm so excited to dive further into some topics that you guys want me to cover. Today, we are talking about MLM culture. The MLM culture has been on my mind ever since I talked about cancel culture in the video I did about 2 weeks ago. I started thinking about communities and how each community kind of develops its own culture and way of operating or communicating. And that made me think of MLMs and the culture that they have and how twisted it is. And so that's what we're going to dive into and analyze today. But first, before we get into the video, if you like deep dives and like to analyze scams and unethical business practices going on the internet, don't forget to subscribe down below and give this video a thumbs up to boost this video. And well, let's get into it. Now, most of us are all part of communities, whether on the internet or off the internet. And usually these communities have their own way of communicating, interacting, kind of their own culture that has been cultivated. But one of the most toxic communities out there is the MLM community. Now, if you don't know what an MLM is, I'll leave the definition up here so that you can pause and read what an MLM is. There's been a lot of talk on the internet of the cult-like following that MLMs create, that it probably won't surprise you that MLMs mirror cults in a lot of ways. Amway, one of the first and most successful MLMs, gained most of its success through cult-like strategies that it deployed. They were so successful and so dangerous that a book was even written about the cult strategies that Amway used in 1999 called Amway, The Cult of Free Enterprise, written by Stephen Butterfield. So, what is the culture of cult-like tactics that Amway has developed, and thus other MLMs have replicated? And how do these tactics create such a successful following that ends up roping people in and draining them of all of their money? According to Douglas M. Brooks, an attorney who specializes in representing victims of pyramid schemes, MLMs use almost the same exact tactics that cults use. They hold mass meetings with very enthusiastic speakers. They use mysterious terminology. They emphasize a relentless focus on constant recruitment. Only positive thinking is allowed in an MLM. AKA toxic positivity. Questioning the MLM company or its distributors is not allowed. Recruits are encouraged to spend more and more time in the MLM, regardless of their personal life and without any consideration for their family, and despite the lack of financial success. So does this mean that MLMs are cults, or just that they mimic them in the culture that they've created? Well, a cult isn't just the imagery that we think of or the famous examples that we know of. In fact, Stephen Hassan, a leading expert in cults and mind control, defines cults as an organization that exercises undue influence or persuasion.
Undue influence, which is a legal term, which talks about how a discrepancy of power is used to undermine a person's ability to think for themselves and make good decisions for themselves
over its members to make them dependent and obedient. Undue influence, basically a persuasion of sorts, is first imposed on victims by showering them with gifts and praise.
I always say that culture is what is really the glue that holds your team together. Culture is the glue that holds your team together. So what are some key elements of creating culture? Number one, recognition. Somebody brings on board their first business partner or their first customer, a kudos on their Facebook wall. If somebody makes their first promotion, a little Starbucks gift card, your business is brewing, congratulations, keep it up. Or you're right on target for the next promotion, a little Target card, keep it up.
And promising them a fantasy world or elite status.
We believe so strongly in the opportunity that had come to us and the products that we were promoting. We decided, you know what, we will figure it out and we will forge ahead. Both my mom and myself became 7-figure earners for our company. By the age of 29, I was recognized as our company's first 6-figure monthly earner, and we've been able to do incredible things.
After a person is hooked in, the organization employs a systematic method of control to disrupt a person's identity and ability to think rationally. To me, it reminds me so much of a toxic relationship, and First off, disclaimer, not sure if it's obvious, it should be, but I am not a psychology expert. I am not an expert in cults. So when I speak of analogies and opinions, they're just based off of my personal opinion as an average person. But hearing that reminds me so much of a toxic relationship. You see people in a toxic relationship, and so often it's like, well, why didn't you just get out? Or like, why didn't you just leave? And it's really never that simple. And a lot of times in a toxic relationship, when it starts, you're treated so well and put up on a pedestal, showered with gifts, like someone treats you so nice and then tries to escalate a relationship really quickly and rope you in and get you invested in that relationship as quickly as possible. And then by the time you're super far in the relationship, you're hooked, you're thinking everything's great, bang, it all goes south. This whole process of joining an MLM reminds me so much of a toxic relationship. And as many of you know, this process is called the BITE model, a model often used to define a cult relationship.
I developed the BITE model of mind control.
BITE stands for behavioral control.
Sleep deprivation, change of name, change of clothing, being in a controlled environment with rewards and punishment, needing to ask permission.
Information control.
Information control, where the group doesn't give you informed consent when they're recruiting you. They either lie to you, or they hold back critical information, or they distort information, or they use information from other sources to manipulate you, to make you feel like you're having mystical experiences, when in fact it was information supplied either by you or by someone else about you.
Thought control and emotional control.
And so models have been developed now. My friend Alan Shefflin, law professor at Santa Clara University, for example, has developed a model where you take into account the predisposing vulnerabilities of a person, as well as the sophisticated techniques of influence that an individual or group are using to combine to basically create what we refer to in the mental health field as a dissociative disorder, where a person is split from themselves and a new cult identity is created to suppress their real identity.
So what are other sinister tactics embedded into the MLM culture? The first and probably most important tactic is love bombing. Love bombing is a type of toxic and manipulative form of affection. Recruits of an MLM are often recruited by someone that they love, someone that's already familiar. So the stranger danger or red flag, this person's trying to scam me, alarm bells aren't always there because it's someone that you already know and trust. So you're gonna assume that they have your best interest in mind. On top of that, other members of the MLM act overjoyed that you're this new recruit. Especially if you're someone who's not used to this type of affection, it can make you feel special, appreciated, and loved in ways that maybe you've never felt before. Even bringing it down to a chemical standpoint, whenever you feel that love emotion, it releases dopamine, almost putting you on this high of excitement. I can see how it would become addicting to be a part of an MLM almost. And just like when you're in a new relationship, you can see things with rose-colored shades, or maybe your judgment might be slightly impaired because you're feeling that high of love. Love is blind, as they say. Not the greatest Netflix show, but it's true. On top of that, a huge amount of pressure is put on MLM recruits to constantly join weekly meetings, go to events, product parties, and conferences. Why do you think this is? Not only at these events do recruits experience love bombing, but then the people who love bomb them, aka the people that they're convinced genuinely love and care for them, get up on stage and talk about their rags to riches story.
I was facing the loss of my job, and we were paying bills with change. I was afraid. I was afraid we were going to lose everything. So I had to look for extra income, and my search led me to my current company. We didn't know how we were going to get paid, but the one thing we had was belief. We believed so strongly in the opportunity that had come to us and the products that we were promoting. We decided, you know what, we will figure it out and we will forge ahead. Both my mom and myself became 7-figure earners for our company. By the age of 29, I was recognized as our company's first 6-figure monthly earner, and we've been able to do incredible things.
Did I make money straight out of the gate, 6 figures? Hell no. It took me years. But I did the things every single day for years. I did not even take 1 second of a day off.
Not 1 second of a day off. Ooh. Sounds good.
Some would say I was obsessed. Some would say I went a little crazy with it. But guess what? I make 7 figures doing this shit now, and who gives a fuck what they think?
How much the MLM has helped them and how much the MLM can help you. And then, of course, on top of that, to give the illusion of authority, they hire all of these professional motivational speakers to further convince you that this is legit.
Because that
Knowledge.
that is the key to the kingdom. Whatever it is that you want to do, professionally or personally, knowledge is the answer to your insecurity.
That you can do this if you just stay positive and ignore all the haters, shut out any sort of negativity, and just listen to us. And that leads us to the next tactic that MLMs use. The art of deception. For example, talk about information control. The only speakers up on the stage of MLM events are the top 1% successful people in the MLM company who have relationships with the executives of the MLM companies, who make books and sell books or software about how to succeed at MLMs. The only videos shared in MLM group chats are from already successful MLM reps talking about how you can get more successful, or toxic positivity characters like Rachel Hollis and the lovely Gary Vee, who talked at a Beachbody conference.
It's very appropriate to have people sign up by, as long as you can provide so much value that you basically guilt them into buying. Basically, my entire life is predicated on providing so much value that I guilt you into buying my stuff.
I literally didn't even know that until you guys brought it up in the comments of that video, so thank you for letting me know about that. Wow. And so the only thing that you're being presented with, the only information, is very biased information, deceiving you that you can become this successful person. Look at this person. Listen to their story. It's so similar to yours. They started from nothing and then just worked a little bit in this MLM, got a few people as their downline, and all of a sudden, boom, they're a millionaire. That can happen to you, right? Since any sort of negativity or critical thought is shut out, the only information that you're being presented with is just all of these people selling you this fantasy story that you will be able to make it in this MLM, that their story and their success can become yours as well, just as long as you just keep working, even when things seem bad, even when you lose money, and shut out anyone who has any sort of critical thought as to what you're doing. We've even seen it recently with upline members and distributors telling their downline to ignore their husband, or how bad it is that their husband's telling them that they need to get out of this MLM company.
So I am asking you guys to make a sacrifice for yourself. I don't care if your spouse supports you. I don't care if your mom hates what you're doing. You shouldn't care either. This is your business, okay? And if you want to make a change, if you are not okay being comfortable where you are, then you have to show up. And I don't want to hear excuses anymore, guys. It's exhausting to me to have to get a message saying, well, my dog was sick and I don't care.
That's when you know stuff's a little messed up. Reality is, as we know, the FTC found that 99% of people lose money in an MLM scheme. That's not 99% of people because the majority of people just don't want to succeed and they decided, it's not for me. It's not 99% of people because everyone's just lazy. That doesn't fit with the whole storyline of just get a few people under you and you'll make millions kind of story. It's 99% of people who lose money. The fantasy story that everyone is being told and constantly presented in a controlled environment is a carefully crafted illusion that impairs recruits' judgment. But since everyone involved repeats this same information as if it's some sort of scripture, causes you to start to think that this is the way, this is reality. If you repeat something long enough, you begin to believe it. All of this would be dangerous enough as it is if it weren't for the financial black hole that MLMs provide. Because at every step of the way, the MLM and people involved are telling you to put more and more money in. Your loved one tells you to spend money on a starter kit, whether it's to help them or to invest in yourself. Your upline is love bombing you, but also telling you, you need to put more and more money in. You need more product. The speakers you're told to listen to and the books that you're told to purchase keep telling you that you need to invest more and more into your future. And those are experts. Why would they want to lead you astray? All of this creates the extremely toxic MLM culture that we know today, with endless horror stories and bad experiences, all unfortunately resulting in the same end story. The recruits end up losing massive amounts of money, constantly being gaslighted by their upline, saying like, you're just not trying hard enough, or it's not that bad, or just keep pushing through.
Success is in between the ears. We've got to manage our emotions and our expectations. So I tell people, what if it's 5 years in? What if it's 50 years in? You know, my success in network marketing has taken me 8 years. I just celebrated my 8th anniversary with my company, 8 years and counting.
Once they finally leave, if they're able to finally leave, everyone shuts them out completely. So they go from having a group of people who've shown so much love and support to them to having no one. So just like a toxic relationship, it's easy to sit on the outside and say, why didn't you leave sooner when you started to notice you were losing money? Or why did you even join in the first place, especially if you had to pay thousands of dollars to join? But the reality is, an MLM gives something to people that many struggle to find outside of one, and that's a support system. We all feel alone at times, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom or a military spouse, two groups that MLMs love to target. MLMs give you a network of people who are just like you, whether it's the bro-y dude MLMs all the way to the stay-at-home mom MLMs. Usually when you're involved in an MLM, it's made up of people who are just like you. And when you join, a lot of the people who are just like you act like they care about you and want to help you. And in a world that's very cruel at times, that's such an incredible thing to have, or at least to feel like you have. MLMs even infiltrate existing support groups, like church groups, therapy groups, and mom groups. So if you walk away from the MLM, you also walk away from this support group that's helped you and makes you feel well supported. So a lot of people will stay in an MLM not because they want to, but because they want to keep this support group that they have. Because their existing support group and this MLM have all of a sudden become intertwined. Just like in the military spouse MLM video that I did, where oftentimes the only way that military spouses would be able to socialize with other spouses who are going through what they're going through, husbands deployed and gone, feeling lost and alone, the only way to interact with those other spouses was to go to MLM parties and to be a part of MLMs, or at least be semi-involved. And that's because reality is MLMs, just like other cults, only see you as one of two things, either in or out. And lastly, the most aggravating part of MLMs to me, but also the part of MLMs that says a lot more about society in general,
You know, we're living in a society,
is that MLMs give hope of success to marginalized group of people. Stay-at-home moms aren't paid to raise a human being. It's a full-time job. But unfortunately, stay-at-home moms aren't paid for it. Even working moms who have to balance working with raising a child struggle to do that because raising a child just isn't valued in a capitalistic society. Students or people who are working minimum wage jobs where you're not able to really climb up the ladder, really identify with this idea of being able to climb up and excel in an MLM regardless of your background or education. And worst of all, immigrants are oftentimes taken advantage of by MLM companies because they might not know better. They might not know about the common business structures of the country that they're in and are working so hard to reach success, usually for their family. MLMs will take advantage of all of these marginalized groups of people as this way of success that they can find that they might not be able to find as easily in a traditional job environment because these groups aren't necessarily getting equal opportunities or being paid fairly for the amount of work that they put in. So how do we help those in an MLM to leave, to realize this toxic culture that's happening? Well, how do we help someone leave a cult?
The question that people ask me often is, well, how do you know if you're under undue influence or mind control or that you've been brainwashed? And what I say is you wouldn't. That's part of the dilemma.
Data shows that the best ways to help someone leave a cult is to constantly remind them of the real world in a kind and positive way.
You need to take a time out from the environment that you're in and the people who are influencing you. You need to go to a separate geographical location and separate yourself from that.
So for example, if an MLM recruit starts spamming you with messages and you have the time and energy, maybe spam them back. But spam them talking about your life and what you're doing and how much you love it. I think that when you're roped into an MLM, you start to forget how great a normal job can be, how great a consistent paycheck and a happy work environment that's positive and uplifting, but not in a completely delusional way, can be. So maybe sharing stories of your day-to-day life might actually help MLM recruits to realize what the real world is actually like once again. Another thing that former cult members have said has really worked is video testimonials.
You need to deliberately seek out critical information about the leader, the doctrine, and the group, or the people that you are involved with, which is directly in contradiction to what the group tells you. Don't talk to those people, they're negative, or don't talk to those people, they've fallen away from God.
There's so many great YouTube videos of people who have been in an MLM who realized how bad it is, that you can almost find a why I left video of almost any MLM. It might be a good idea to send an MLM recruit a why I left video of the MLM that they're in. I'll provide links to really great videos of the top MLM companies in the description below as well. There might be information in there that resonates with them and that they can relate to. And they might be more willing to listen to someone who's went through the same experiences that they've had as well. And lastly, if you have the time and you really care about the person, let them know that you are a non-judgmental source that's here to listen to them, because becoming disillusioned to something can take a long time and is a process, especially when you've been fed so many lies and stories.
I ask people to reflect back when they first met the person or first met the group, what did they think they were getting involved with? And compare it with what they now know, having been involved with the group for weeks or months or years. And ask themselves the question, if I knew then what I know now, would I have ever gotten involved? And if the answer is not in a million years, then you know that you've been under undue influence.
If someone constantly gives excuses, continues to try to recruit you, or becomes mean and confrontational at you just trying to help, at that point you have every right to disengage and know that you did as much as you could possibly do to help them. It can be hard to relate or empathize with MLM recruits, but at the end of the day, we are all vulnerable to being exploited and sucked into a scheme. Like I said in the beginning, most of us are all part of some sort of community with some sort of culture, and some are more toxic than others. MLMs take advantage of our humanity all in the name of profit. But if we stand up for one another and help each other through this process, we might be able to combat it. I know it's not too late.